very warm welcome to this Cisco discussion on GDPR, which is coming into force in May 2018 and is surely going to be a major catalyst for change in the way that businesses operate and protect their data. So I'm delighted today to be joined by Cisco's Cybersecurity Director, Terry Greer-King, who's going to talk to us about what GDPR is and help people put themselves on the front foot when it comes to preparing for it. So Terry, first question, if I can ask you, how did GDPR come about?
Well, simplistically, there are two drives to GDPR. First of all, citizen data. This is Europe trying to give control of people's data back to the individual. And that's kind of the drive around legislation. I think there was concern around things like big data analytics, what was happening to our personal data. Big driver for it. Second big driver was each country was coming up with different legislation to try and control this. So the idea is to drive some uniformity to actually make it easier to kind of regulate.
Okay, so you mentioned Europe, so let's address the question of Brexit. Negotiations still ongoing, we're not sure what the outcome is going to be yet. So in these kind of uncertain times, does that mean that companies should hold off until they're a little bit clearer about our position within Europe, or should they start preparing for GDPR now?
I think we need to be clear on the scope. And the scope talks about EU citizen data. Now, as you say, we don't know when we'll leave Europe. So British citizens might be European citizens on May 2018, so there's a reliance there to conform to the regulation. But probably more importantly, to understand the regulation, although it's dealing with EU citizen data, it's talking about data being transported as well. And so other organisations who hold or transporting EU citizen data are still liable. So many British organisations are dealing with European citizens in some way, shape or form, and will continue to do so. The legislation, the regulations are going to apply May 2018. Start now.
So does GDPR affect everyone, every company?
The important bit about GDPR, I think, is the R stands for regulation. It's a regulation, not a directive. Now, in European speak, or in government speak, that's quite an important distinction. A regulation is law. Every member state of Europe and every organisation dealing with EU citizens have to comply with GDPR. You don't opt in, you don't opt out, you have to do it.
What would be your advice to companies who are looking at their processes and knowing that they need to improve them to meet the criteria? How would you advise they look at the way that they do stuff?
Simplistically, the way to start with all these things is gap analysis. If you have the expertise, start to use it. If you don't, try to contract it in. Work out what you're supposed to do on the 25th of May 2018. There are some very specific guidelines about what that should be. And I think if you compare that with current process and structure and what you do at the moment, you kind of get a gap. So I think that between now and 25th of May 2018, you can kind of get a roadmap of things you could do to get there. So I think it's all about that. The later you leave it, the more it's going to be a panic situation. The earlier we do it, the sooner we can start on that journey.
So better conversations, people being more aware of the precious things that they hold within their business and when it comes to data, so that's great. Lovely, thank you very much for your time, Terry. Really appreciate it. There's much more information about GDPR on our website, and if you'd like to know more, want to have a conversation, then please do get in touch with us. But yeah, thank you very much. Bye for now.